Hello and welcome at the 10th React Native Community Kraków meetup here at Software Mansion. My name is Kacper, and I'll be your presenter for today, your host for today. First things first, let's start with some organizational stuff. You can find snacks, beers, and some non-alcoholic beverages right behind my back in the kitchen. You are free to grab anything you want from there. You can do it right now, because there will be no or very short breaks between the talks. Next, the toilets are behind the elevators outside of the office. You need to leave the office space to get to the toilet. I think the doors are open at all times, so it's okay. And after the presentations, there will be pizza for you guys. We are always looking for speakers for this type of events. If you have anything to share in React and React Native world, please contact us either directly to Paulina, our event manager. There is an address, or you can DM us at Twitter at Software Mansion. The agenda for today, we have two amazing speakers, two amazing presentations. The first one will be concluded by Wojtek Stanisz, our employee. Get creative with your mobile apps. He'll try to motivate us a little bit more to put some heart and effort into your apps. The second one will be made by Daniel Grychtoł from the Widlarz Group. He'll try to present to us the new and very interesting Expo-Router library, which is a new and innovative way of doing navigation in React Native. Very interesting stuff. We have this very long ongoing tradition of starting this type of meetup with a short summary what's new and interesting in React Native world. So I would start with the most recent one. 2 days ago, a new Expo SDK version dropped, and it comes with the newest and the stable version of React Native. Also, it features a stable version of Expo modules. Expo modules is a way for developers to create with Swift and Kotlin libraries that work both on Expo and React Native out of the box, or nearly out of the box. With this change, there are 3 new libraries that support Fabric. That's Linear Gradient, AV, and Camera. But the change that I'm the most excited about is the Hermes engine on iOS in Expo Go. That will make it possible to use Chrome DevTools with Expo Go without ejecting the app. And it's very easy to configure because the JSC that's currently using, it's still the default. You need to change it in your configuration with JS Engine Hermes here on the bottom. Very exciting. The next breaking news in React Native, quite literally, because in last Friday, there was one new release of Release Candidate, and that caused a lot of troubles, slightly saying. So the React Native team did some amazing stuff, which kind of broke all of the Android builds 2 years to the past. So there was an idea, because in the past, all the Android code in React Native was distributed via NPM and downloaded to your machine. This was fine, but it was kind of slow with the new architecture. The solution to that would be to compile this code and upload it to another repository, which is made directly for that, Maven repository. So then on the Maven, you would have to download just pre-compiled code and use it as it is. It's a good solution. This is the solution for this problem. Unless you have a bug, unless you have a nasty bug, can you see it? Yeah, it's the plus at the end. So this line of config says, use the newest version of React Native Android. But when it was on your machine, it was fine. It was working for years and years. But the moment React Native team uploaded com Facebook React Native library to Maven, it resulted in fetching to every single version the newest version, which broke every single build in the world. It's all good now. It's fixed. It's good. Next one, very exciting stuff, which I will just sneak peek to you. Expo-Router will be having a presentation for that today, so won't be talking about that just yet. Next one, a month ago in the Reanimated library, there is an addition of a user-animated keyboard hook, which makes it very easy to make animations based on the position of the keyboard. And that's available since 2.10 version of Reanimated. Shared element transition. We've added a tweet about that we are working on shared element transition API in Reanimated and screens. That's a very desirable thing to have in your app because you can make amazing transitions with it. Shared element transition is an API that you can see an element of you that's transitioning, that's animating between two different screens. So it looks kind of nice in it. And last but not least, app.js-conf is back. It's back at May. So write that in your calendar. We are very happy to see you in May as well. I'm passing mic to Wojtek. Give him a applause.
Hi. I just have to switch. So, hi, I'm Wojtek. I work here for more than 4 years now. It's been a long time with me and React Native, being lovers, really. And I always wanted to create talk like this when I don't talk about any technical stuff at all, just about the quirky features you can create in your mobile apps. It doesn't even depend on the software or hardware. You're using Android or iOS. And we can just be crazy about what we do. So I created this the quick guide for the creative solution for every app. And it obviously has high quality. Everything with a star has a quite high quality, like the QC on every Chinese stuff. So the chapter first is things you can add so it looks like you're creative. You know, like I'm not creative, I just follow patterns and people think I am, so if it works, just don't tell anyone. First is customizable icons. Not many people use it, not many apps have it implemented. First, I realized I can do it in GitHub app, actually, when I choose my beautiful rainbow white icon, and I was super cool. The karaoke fantasy on the bottom was also pretty good. And then I realized more and more apps are implementing this stuff, like Snapchat, the Tinder, when you get the Tinder Pro, when Reddit, and all applications for young people that want to know stuff. Microsoft Outlook, of course. And my favorite, Twitter, of course. When you pay $8 for Twitter Blue, you don't only get the badge, you also get customizable icons, seasonal icons. Ooh. So yeah, you don't only steal identity, you can always have a different icon. So that was the first step. Second step is use sensors, because all phones have those little stuff inside that can realize the gestures like this, and we can use it in some ways. Some can use it to make some parallax, to move some things around in your menu on the background or anything. For example, MetaMask have this 3D Fox that you can, you have to trust me. I recorded my phone when I was moving it. It will be strange, right? Yeah, trust me. And it happens all over the place. Like when you have the PS3, I don't know if you remember that stuff, but it was long ago. But I turned on my PS3 yesterday to check it out. But surely, if you take your PS3 controller and start to move around, you are able to move the stars that are going around. I was pretty amazed. And yeah, when we talking about stars and glowing, here's because this is a guide, my quick, simple tutorial how to shine. For example, if you get some award, for example, your user is, I don't know, still alive or logged into the app or didn't delete your app within 2 months or something like that, you can give him this award. And my simple solution to make it more exciting is download GIMP, because it's free, import it, blur, light up, opacity down a little, you get something like this, and you just animate this one below. You can do it for everything, it always works. You can combine it with the sensor, an icon. So, I don't know, maybe. That's not my battery. If you're gonna stare for it like 10 hours, then maybe. Next step is, of course, use emojis for commit names, avatars, anywhere. Like, emojis are everything. Like, initial commit for your new projects, give it an ogre face. Why, I don't know, I just merged. When fixing some bugs, always works, and nobody is angry at you. For example, I worked for some time for this crazy, great project, the Rainbow Wallet, and they use the emojis for those avatars that you can simply manipulate, and that was totally random, so everyone got something crazy. And in the latest release of iOS, you get this super new and exciting icon here on creating new wallpaper. And the stuff I found inside is like, I don't know about readability, but yeah. You can put any emoji you want. I think up to 6 at the time, so. Moving splash. It's getting harder here, I have to admit, because this one, you actually need some kind of help from your designer, but we're gonna throw it. Like, the Twitter got one, the Tinder got one, the MetaMask had this creation animation. From us as developers, it's not much work because we're gonna only implement the animation that somebody else make, but you know, it's ain't much, but you can be the creative one who said, hey, let's make it. Okay, use error screen as opportunity. And like, for real, I'm serious. Like, most of you probably know HTTP cats. That's open source stuff for every single error you can have. And you can just simply out of the box. But I have to admit one thing here. I'm an OLX addict. If you don't know what OLX is, it's like second-hand auction site. You can buy anything from, I don't know, board games, cars, estate, real estate, tractors. I don't know what you want to buy, but it's there. And one time I wanted to look for something for my car, and I was like, is that some new category I don't know anything about? Is that portal to another dimension? Click it. Sorry, the site is unavailable. What about the short game? I don't know. I don't know what they're thinking. But yeah, it's there. I wasn't even mad. That's the point. When user hits some error state, he's probably gonna be mad. So he can make him just laugh and make like, why? And here I have to tell you something really, really sad. I can draw. I can draw nothing. Like, Microsoft Paint is the best I can do, and if your drawings look like mine, like this is a human, this is a flower, and the best car I've ever seen, don't worry, because I use flat icons all of the time. Those are really awesome icons for all kind of stuff. I use it for all my fun projects I do when I want to create something. And if you want, I don't know, a cute printer, a teacher for some reason, or a monkey, then it's all there. You also get monkeys from all the kinds, like this wandering monkey, the happy outline monkey, the monkey that's looking right into your soul. Yeah, it's all there, and the most important thing for us, it's vectors. So, end of advertisement. Nobody pay me for this, like for real. This is just my honest opinion. I love the flat icon. But about the monkey, if it's vector, we can do much, much more with it than when it's rasterized image like PNG or JPEG. Because you can't forget that we can do SVG animations really, really simply. And we can do it in two ways, I can say. One is that we can give it to a designer or somebody like this, and he will create his mambo jumbo in the After Effects or anything, and we will just import it in Lottie. And it's working pretty great, but we are not here for simple solutions. We are here for code. So here are two simple examples of how you can have fun with SVGs, like this writing on the bicycle bear, I don't know. Or more important, you can absolutely have control over how the image looks based on the code if you need that. Like with this house, you can actually make it larger, stronger, more, or more like Kraków-like, like the smallest possible. Oh no, I lost. Oh no. Oh yes. So yeah, don't forget that you can pretty easily animate any SVG you get, and you can use it to anything. You can use it to move the head of your monkey or straight more deeply into your soul. And chapter 2 is, okay, we got all those features that we can use. You got also more obscure APIs that I don't know even about. But I take the creativity, the inspiration from a couple of apps. And one of those apps is really problematic for me because it's Tinder. It's really well made. It's super great in case of animations, of how it handles user gestures, the funky stuff they create, but I only got this one moment when I have to say, hey honey, I'm gonna install it again. Like, animations, Yeah, sure. So yeah, I installed it anyway. It's always worth it, trust me. And there's a couple of apps like this. There's Tinder. There's MetaMask, I always keep without the money inside. And when you get all your inspiration from apps you like or things you like or anything, I know if you're into biking or something, just take inspiration from apps that are around you or commercials that are around you. And don't be ashamed to create some strange things you create along the process. Because I don't know if you remember the old game, the Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets game for the PC. And there was one spell called Spongify. And it looks something like this. That was a platform that made you jump. And the real story behind it, from I've heard with talks with developers, is that someone from the interns messed the variables so much that he broke the jumping to this point that it became this. So yeah, don't be ashamed if you create something that looks kind of weird, but it's okay. And question was already here. So don't be afraid about performance that much, because adding one effect won't ruin your app for all. I like to think about it like, if you're still afraid, think about 3DS. Yes, I mean the 3DS, Nintendo 3DS, the console that was released in 2011 and was produced to 2020, I think. And look at the specs. 128 megabytes of RAM, dual-core processor with clock speed of 268 megahertz. That's a CPU, a powerful 133 megahertz. And people actually created great journeys, great big adventures, racing games there. And you are afraid that something like this will break your phone. Like, no. You're really gonna capable. Your iPhone 13 Pro Ultra Max is capable of doing simple rotation and some simple animations. So, yeah, thank you very much. I hope you get some inspiration from this little presentation, and see you in the next one. Oh, any questions or something? I don't know. I take it as a no.
Thank you, Wojtek, for this amazing presentation. Please welcome Daniel with his presentation. With a round of applause, sorry.
Hi, I hope you can hear me well. I have to do some adjustments. Can I do it myself?
Yeah.
Thanks. Okay, I guess we're ready. So first of all, hi. Thanks for having me here. I'm Daniel. I'm a software developer from the Widlarz Group. We specialize in making React Native applications. We also try to do some open source when we are not doing stuff for our clients. So we have like a library for in-app notifications, which is called React Native Notificated. We also have an emoji picker, React Native emoji picker. You can check that out. Yeah, so I guess that was the introduction, and the topic that I'm going to talk about today is file-based navigation for Expo and React Native applications with a library called Expo-Router, a library that has just been released recently. I learned about it by seeing a tweet from Evan, and basically as soon as I saw it, I was like really interested in it. Basically, I wanted to check it out, how it works, what's the API. So I guess today is also like a great chance to do it, to take a look at this library together. So we're going to take a look at its API, and also at the end we're going to try to build a really simple application, just for the sake of testing out the API. So you probably already know we have different approaches in which we can handle navigation. If you come from React Native world, you probably heard about React Navigation, or maybe about React Native navigation by Wix. If you're doing mobile applications, you probably know React Router DOM, or maybe you had a chance to work with Next.js. So it's also like a different approach in which you can handle navigation. So let's now try to answer a question. What's the navigation with Expo-Router like? I mentioned React navigation and Next.js intentionally before, because Expo-Router is built on top of React navigation. And apart from that, it also brings some routing concepts from web to mobile. It's also native. You get all the cool features like gestures, transitions. It's deeply linkable. And by that, I mean that some stuff the library can do automatically. Like you don't have to manually assign certain screens to paths. So if you want to set up deep linking, you only have to take care of your scheme, but the screens will be automatically assigned a certain path. It's a cross-platform solution, so basically, like you target with one setup, one code, you target web and mobile, iOS, Android at once. And all these characteristics, they all are a part of like goals of the new routing system. You can read more about it in the article that Evan wrote. Here's a QR code. If you want, you can scan it and see the article. It's really interesting. You can read more about the motivation behind the library, the problems, the plans for the future, etc. So let's now take a look at the API. If you want to take a look at it and have a bit of fun with the library yourself, you can just initialize a new Expo application by just running this command. There's a template out there which you can use. You can also install the library into your existing application, but keep in mind that it's a bit more to it than just installing a package. There's some further setup required for it. But you can read all about it in the documentation. It's really nicely explained there. So yeah, let's now talk about how you're actually going to handle navigation with Expo-Router. So by looking at this code snippet, you probably already have an idea how it works, more or less. We will try to go through it line by line. So maybe let's start with the folder. As you can see, all our screens are placed inside an app folder. So this is basically like a root place for your application. And the app folder is like, it's by design. It's you have to use it in this way. You can read more about it in the documentation also. There's like reasoning behind it. Yeah, and simply like the entry point to your application is index file. And whenever you add a new file in the app directory, you basically add a new screen. And by default, each screen has a path assigned to it. As you can probably see, you can also nest the screens inside some folders. You can do it for a few reasons. One of them might be that, for example, you want to prepend a path to the screen with some additional value. You can also group the screens because maybe you want to add some kind of layout for the screens, or maybe you want to set up some kind of nested navigation for the screens. All this you can achieve by nesting the screens in a folder. Before we go further, there's also one more thing to talk about it while we are at this slide. The last line represents, the file called ID, and the name is wrapped with curly square braces. This is basically a dynamic route, meaning a screen that you're going to add and declare inside this file is going to have a part of the link, which is a dynamic part. The screen is going to have it available in root params. So given this example, the 999 is like a dynamic part. It can be, for example, an ID. Yeah. So a moment before I mentioned that you can group folders, files inside folders. You can also group them inside fragments. Fragments are basically the concept is pretty similar, with this exception that when you put something inside a fragment, the path is not going to be prepended with the name of the folder. All you have to do is just to wrap the name of the folder in parentheses. Yeah, and basically you can, to add a new screen, you add a new file, you add React component. You just have to keep in mind that the component, it has to be default exported. You can't use named exports, otherwise, if you use named exports, the Expo-Router will not perceive component as a screen. Obviously, probably every application there is out there redirects user to some places. You can also do it easily with Expo-Router. You can do it in a more imperative way or in a more declarative way. Yeah, since it's built on top of React navigation, you have access to navigation props. You can use navigation hook just as well. Here's like another possible way in which you can redirect the user somewhere by just simply using the redirect component, or again by using the useLink hook. Now let's talk a bit about layout components. Layout is like this concept of something that can basically wrap a part of screens. So by that I mean the layout, like the goal of the layout component is to be a wrapper around all of the screens that are declared in a sibling files. So if you use your imagination for a while now and think like, let's say we have a folder called main, and in this folder we have two files, posts.js and post.details.js, which would be like two separate screens. If we add a layout component here, in a new file called _layout.js, for example, then basically by doing so, we are declaring a layout component, and this layout component is going to wrap all of the screens in that folder. So basically, you could use it if you want to add some kind of navbar to a given set of screens. You can also use layout components to declare and instantiate a new, for example, stack navigators or bottom tabs navigators. Yeah. Maybe let's go back for a while. You can also like set up the stack navigators, for example. It works simply like basically the same way. Like if you used React navigation, you could just put some props and set up the stack navigator. The same you can do with Expo-Router. You can also like override settings of certain screens, like only in a single screen inside a stack navigator, for example. All you have to do is to import the stack component from Expo-Router and just inject it somewhere in your screen. And yeah, you can also easily manage and influence the default behavior of splash screen with Expo-Router. You can, for example, prolong its display if you want to do some preloads or other async stuff. There are a few more elements in the Expo-Router library, but we don't have like much time to go through all of them. You can like always check out the documentation. It's really like nicely done. Yeah, and as I mentioned before, we will try to build a simple application. And before we do so, let's maybe start with talking a bit what we will try to do. So we're going to build an app which has 3 screens. Like the main part of the application would be a friends list. And whenever you tap on a friend, you open friends details screen. And basically, we also want to have some kind of authorization system. Like the app is going to check whether the user is authorized or not. If he or she is not authorized, we're going to show the registration flow. Otherwise, we're going to show the main part of the application. So for the sake of this this talk, I prepared a simple project starter. Let's run the bundler and see if everything works correctly. It seems like it does. Web should also work. Yeah, so let's go through each and every one of the files we have in our starter project. We have a text component, which is basically like some larger text. We also have a hook, use auth hook. Let's assume that this is our authorization system. We also have like a main screen of our application, which is like a list of our friends. And we also have our, let's say, registration flow, which is basically this simple text. We're missing one screen, the one with dynamic route, the one in which we want to display like details of a friend. So let's create a new file. We want the screen, this file, to be a dynamic route. So let's wrap the name of the file in square braces, and let's maybe copy the content from our registration screen. We have access to our props, navigation props, so we can just render the param that we are going to pass with a deep link, for example. And now we can maybe check if everything works as intended. So I told you that the screens are deep linkable by default, like we have paths assigned to it automatically. So as you might guess, our main screen is accessible at our root path, the index file. The registration workflow is accessible at /register path. And our friend details screen is going to be accessible at / and the dynamic value. So let's see if it works. Yeah, we can see that the registration screen opened, and when we try to navigate to, for example, page about Ross, we also see a different screen. Let's also test it on mobile. Hopefully it will work. Yeah, it worked. Let's also try with the dynamic route. Seems to work as well. Next, let's add a stack navigator to our main part of the app, because we want to have this default header. We also want to have gestures, etc. So let's do it now. We can use a fragment to group 2 of these screens together and apply a layout to them. So let's do it. let's call our fragment main. Let's also do the same with our friends list component. Let's also move it to main fragment. We also need to update the paths. And let's see if everything works. As you can see, the app still works. So let's now add a stack component, a stack navigator. So let's use the aforementioned layout in order to do it. So let's add a new file called layout_layout. So by the way, if you want to add a layout component, the file name it has to be named _layout. Otherwise, it won't work. So we can add our stack navigator in this simple way. Let's see. Okay, we don't have the redirection in place, so let's quickly add it. If you remember, we can use the useLink hook if you want to redirect a user somewhere. So let's point the user to a proper friend detail screen. Let's see if it works. It works. Before we go further with the authorization flow, let's also change one more thing. We don't want to have this title here, which is derived from the file name. We can simply override it in our layout component. So instead of just exporting the imported stack, let's just create our own component, which is going to render the stack, and let's just override the friends list up. Let's just override the title. And it works. The title changed. It's different. Obviously, it's just like React navigation. You can pass down some other config, like you can configure further the look of the header. You can change the transition animation, the direction of the gestures, etc. Yeah, basically, let's also try to, because I told you that you can also change the setting of a single screen. Let's also try to do it by importing stack component once again. And now let's just inject it into our screen. And in this way, we can also change the screen, this one. As we can see, we have in the title of in the header we have a name of a friend. Yeah. So the last thing we want to build is to build like an authorization system, and to do it, we can just use the layout component one more time. Let's do it. Let's create a new layout file, this time in our app folder. Just like that. And now we're going to do something different. Basically, layout can also conditionally redirect you away from certain navigators that you add. You can do it by just rendering the layout component, just like that. And in order to conditionally render one navigator or the other, you just have to do something like that. You also have to remember about rendering the children. If you don't render a children component, the layout won't show you the content of the files of the screens that the component is wrapping. Yeah, and now let's just tell the Expo-Router library which navigators we want to display. So we want to either show the main content of our application, which is hidden behind the main fragment, or show the authorization flow, which is basically our registration screen. And to show one or the other, redirect to one or the other, we can use redirect prop. And redirect prop simply tells the library when the library should redirect a user away from this screen, from this part. So let's try to use it along with our use auth hook. Our hook returns a user. So we want to redirect away from our main screen whenever we don't have any user data, and we want to redirect away from registration whenever we, sorry, I misspelled, whenever we don't have a user. So let me just open the use authorization hook side by side so you could see it, and let's restart everything. So let's try to test it first on web. Right now we don't have a user, so we don't want to show something is not working. So we don't have any user data at this moment, so whenever we try to reach a part of the application which is not meant to be seen by unauthorized users, the Expo library will just show us our registration flow. Let's see if the same goes for example for the Phoebe page. Yeah, we see the registration flow just as well, and if we, let's say we don't have some user data now, then we can access our main feature, so to say. And if we try to access register workflow, it redirects us away just as well. Let's test it on mobile. So we now are authorized, so if we try to open our registration workflow, we should be presented with a main screen instead, just like that. Let's now get rid of the user data. And let's test it again. This time by trying to access a friends detail page. Yeah, and we see the registration flow. So yeah, basically that was it. Thanks for being here with me. And also, I would just like to give some kudos to Expo team. It seems like a good job. Yeah, and as I said before, here's a QR code to an article by Evan Bacon. You can take a look at it. and read more about it. There are some links to the documentation and to the GitHub discussion page, so you can take a look there. Thanks.
Are you open to questions? Are you open to questions?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an expert as far as the Expo-Router is concerned, but...
Are there any questions?
So getting back to your demo, could you show it for a moment?
Yeah.
Could you show the files? There was like, you have the app directory, right? And you have also the components and hooks directory within it. How does it distinguish that it's not a page?
It does so by basically whenever you have a file inside the app directory, and when you export the component using default export, then it is going to be perceived as a screen. And when you export a hook, like when you use named export, it won't be perceived as a hook. Actually, it can be easily, like nicely also explained if we try to open a link that it's not there. If you try to do it, no, give me a moment. There's a default path called sitemap, if I remember correctly. Yeah, if you try to open the _sitemap path, you can see all of the screens that are recognized by the library, basically. So our text component is not perceived as a screen. If I did something like this, it should show in our sitemap as a screen. It does not. Maybe let's restart the bundler. Yeah, and as you can see, the text file is now shown and perceived as a screen. Kind of.
So I have another question about the project structure, because is it like a proper way to like include the components and the hooks inside the app folder, or should we like somehow avoid that? Because you might by accident actually default export, or you have different practices within the team. Some people prefer named or default exports, and it may lead to accidental creation of the page.
Yeah. I mean, I guess it all depends on how you want to tackle the architecture in your project. Yeah.
Thanks.
Sure.
Do you mind sharing some suggestions of our design system and folder structure?
You mean in this repo?
Yeah, like some design system implementation, how we structure the components.
Oh, you mean like an example with in the context of Expo-Router?
In context of our Expo-Router, let's say we have something called atomic design or something. How do we structurize it alongside with having the Expo-Router?
I mean, you could. I guess you could keep your structure the way you usually. I mean, I guess in the same way that you usually did it, and basically only care about because you can still, for example, declare components the same way you are used to. You just have to like take care of the screens. I mean, you can, for example, take an approach in where you only use default export for screens, for example, I guess. Yeah. I guess that would also be like a good question to like, or some kind of cool open discussion, maybe on GitHub discussions for the Expo-Router. I subscribed to the topic, and yeah, there's a bit of a traffic there, so people are active.
Thank you.
I've got a question. Do you know what navigators are used under the hood, and can you modify them, like bottom tabs to material bottom tabs or whatever?
Yeah, you can instead of using the stack navigator, you can, for example, just use tabs. It probably should work.
Okay, but we've got like different kinds of tabs in the React navigation library. So do you know if it's customizable?
Tabs are supported, stack navigators are supported, and you can also do, I'll show you in a moment. You can also do something like what was it? There was a section that nicely addresses this question.
Like, I just want to know if it's customizable. It's okay.
Yeah, I mean, it is. It was probably here. Yeah, for example, in this example, you can see that you can also like convert, for example, a drawer navigation to a layout.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you can also further configure the, for example, if you want to use tabs, you can also do some more advanced, let's say, configuration. Maybe it was here. Yeah, I can't recall, but basically.
Yeah, I saw the tab router there, so I think it's like you can just change those, so it's okay.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, what is this fancy tool that you use in your IDE that shows you inline tips whether there is a bug somewhere, there is an error?
You mean like something like that?
Yeah, just like that.
It's called I don't know. It's some kind of plugin from for NeoVim. You just have to install like a language support, and yeah. You can go to my GitHub account. I have my config there, public. If you want to, yeah, get it. The config basically is copied from one of the YouTubers. I just modified it a bit to my liking. Yeah. So I don't know if you have more questions. Thanks.
Thank you so much for this bold presentation and a live demo. With this presentation, the official part of the meetup is done, but I'd like to ask for you to wait a little bit more because the pizza is on the way. And I'm looking to network with you guys. Bye.